Hey folks, this is Professor MJ, a university professor holding a PhD in statistics, and I'm here to help you crush your bookies. Today, I'm going to talk about the 2020 preview of the New Orleans Saints. The line on their win total is set at 10.5. So should we bet them to win more or less than 10.5 games in 2020? That's the question I'm going to try to answer today in this video. The Saints secured the number 2 seed in the NFC last year, despite Drew Brees missing 5 games, which is remarkable. Unfortunately, the Saints were eliminated in dramatic fashion for the 3rd straight season. After suffering through the Minneapolis Miracle in 2018, and the non-call on a critical, blatant interference penalty against the Rams in 2019, well, the Saints lost a 26-20 overtime thriller against the Vikings. And once again, officials were questioned when the replay showed Kyle Rudolph possibly pushed PJ Williams on the game-winning touchdown. So bad luck just continues to stick to this franchise. Will it be the year where they finally shake it all off? Let's discuss every offensive position one by one. And let's start with quarterbacks. Drew Brees is simply unbelievable on the field, and he is also a wonderful human being. He donated $5 million to deliver meals to needy people in the Louisiana state. So that's a great gesture from him and his wife. I think it's worth mentioning because we often focus too much on what NFL players do wrong off the field. Now the question with Drew Brees is, will he ever slow down or what? He's now 41 years old, but his numbers keep impressing a lot. He has completed at least 70% of his passes in each of the past 4 years, which is jaw-dropping. And he even led the league in that category last year. His TD to INT ratio has also improved of late. Now, over the past 2 years, he has thrown 59 TD passes versus just 9 picks. Backup QB, Teddy Bridgewater, left for Carolina during the offseason. But really, who can blame him? He really deserves a chance to be a starter in this league once again. He's joining a much weaker team though. He did a very good job when Brees went down to a thumb injury. For a moment, the backup QB became Taysom Hill, who has been the jack of all trades in this offense. He can run, he can throw, he can catch. So in other words, he can do it all. However, following the signing of Jameis Winston, also known as the turnover machine, he likely becomes the number 2 QB in this offense. Winston threw for over 5,000 yards last year, which turned out to be the 8th most in league history. However, his 30 interceptions, that's right, 30 interceptions and 5 lost fumbles put a big blemish on his 2019 season. A 60.7% completion rate was not all that great either, and he had great weapons to work with, including stud receivers Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Playing for the Saints could end up being the best thing that ever happened to Winston. He will get some great tips from Drew Brees, who, unlike Winston, does not turn the ball over very often. The former Buck has a great arm, and he's also in his mid-20s. So not all hope is lost for the former number 1 overall pick out of Florida State. Let's now talk about the running back position. Alvin Kamara's numbers have been incredibly steady since entering the league in 2017. He has rushed for 728, 883, and 797 yards during that time frame, while also catching exactly 81 balls in each of those 3 seasons. His TD output was the lowest of his career though, as he only scored 6 total TDs in 2019. It is worth noting though that he battled through injuries last year. He had trouble breaking tackles down the stretch, but he will be back at 100% when the 2020 season begins. Latavius Murray is nice luxury as a backup running back. He picked up almost as many yards as Kamara while posting a nice 4.4 yards per carry average. This figure has never been lower than 3.9 in any of his 6 seasons in the NFL, which is remarkable. Kamara missed 2 games last year. In those contests, Murray racked up 150 and 157 total yards while posting 2 TDs in each of those games. So if Kamara goes down to injury, the Saints will be in good hands with Murray. Let's now talk about wide receivers. Michael Thomas broke Marvin Harrison's single-season record for receptions by catching 149 balls. He caught a minimum of 4 passes in all games, and he also cleared the 100-yard receiving mark on 10 occasions, which is astonishing. Thomas was truly dominant. What's even more incredible is that he caught 149 out of 185 targets, which amounts to a mind-boggling 80.5 catch rate, an incredibly high percentage given the volume. With Thomas and Kamara catching so many balls, there were not many targets left to other receivers. Ted Ginn's play seemed to drop off significantly, as he caught 30 of 56 balls thrown his way. He had his second worst PFF grade over his 13-year career. You have to wonder if he has any gas left in the tank. And personally, I don't believe that he can rebound. Meanwhile, Traquan Smith was a disappointment last year. He did catch 5 TD passes for the second straight year, after being selected in the second round of the 2018 draft, but catching just 18 passes for 234 yards won't get anyone excited over his performance. As if the team needed more playmakers, the Saints went on to acquire Emmanuel Sanders, who started the year with Denver last year before being traded to San Francisco. Sanders suffered a brutal injury in 2018, but that did not prevent him from having a pretty nice 2019 season. He totaled 66 receptions for 869 yards and 5 TDs. He is a nice get, considering Ginn is getting older and Traquan Smith has yet to pan out. Let's now talk about tight ends, shall we? Jared Cook is another aging player who has done surprisingly well. He hauled in 43 passes for 705 yards, which was not that close from being career highs. However, his 9 TD receptions and his 16.4 yards per catch average were career best. He started the season slowly, but he seemed to develop great chemistry with Drew Brees down the stretch. Josh Hill is not much of a receiver, but he does the job as a blocker. He's been with the team for 7 years, and 2019 was his best season in terms of receptions and receiving yards. However, he's not a threat to take away Jared Cook's role as the number one tight end. The team traded 4 picks, that's right, 4 picks, to select Adam Trautman out of Dayton in the 3rd round of this year's draft. His receiving production increased in each of his 4 college years. It culminated with a season where he picked up 70 receptions for 916 yards and 14 TDs in 11 starts. That's right, 14 TDs as a tight end in 11 games. That's awesome. The only question mark surrounding Trautman is, can he handle a much higher level of competition than what he faced at Dayton? He could become the number one tight end in this offense in 2021, considering Jared Cook's age. Alright, so it's now time to talk about the offensive line. This is an exceptional group, and all players are returning for the 2020 season, which does not bode well for opposing defenses. Center Eric McCoy was picked in the 2nd round of last year's draft, and he competed in training camp with Cameron Tom and Nick Easton. McCoy won the job and he finished 4th in PFF rankings among 37 centers. I think it's fair to say he had a great season. Left tackle Teron Armstead made it to the Pro Bowl for the 2nd consecutive year. He has received good grades in each of his 7 seasons in the NFL. I believe Drew Brees can rest easy with Armstead protecting his blind side. At right tackle, the Saints have Ryan Ramczyk. PFF made him the number 1 tackle in the entire league last year with a great 90.9 grade. He has improved in each of his first 3 seasons in the NFL, and he has started all games except just 1. At guard, New Orleans has Larry Warford and Andrus Peat. Warford was the 8th best guard in the NFL according to PFF rankings, while Peat was the only guy to struggle on the offensive line. He finished at spot number 70 out of 81 guards, taking Cesar Ruiz in the 1st round last April was a bit surprising. The Saints already had a good center with Eric McCoy. Head coach Sean Payton already claimed that right guard Larry Warford will have to compete for his job with either Ruiz or McCoy. Even though Warford played well last year, he is entering the last year of his contract. For your information, Ruiz did not allow a single sack as a junior with Michigan, and he also does a good job run blocking. Alright, let's now summarize the 2020 outlook for the Saints offense as compared to the 2019 offense. Now, my opinion won't be popular, but I see a downgrade here. Sure, returning pretty much the entire 2019 lineup is great. However, I'm wary of a few things. First, the age factor. Drew Brees is 41 years old, and your body gets hurt more easily when you reach your 40s. You can't deny he has a much higher likelihood of getting hurt this year than in the past. If that happens, losing Teddy Bridgewater is going to hurt this offense. Although Winston might pick up the slack if he can cut down on the turnovers. Jared Cook, Emmanuel Sanders, and Ted Ginn are also getting up there in age. And also, how in the world could you expect Michael Thomas to play at a higher level than last year, where he was simply spectacular. He is much more likely to regress than to improve upon his 2019 performance. Finally, the offensive line did not suffer many injuries last year, except Pete, who missed 6 games. But he was the weakest link on the line anyway. I don't wish them bad luck, obviously, but one of their top 4 guys could easily get hurt this year due to the physical nature of the game. The Saints scored the 3rd highest number of points last year, and I will cautiously put them in the number 5 to number 8 rank. In order to avoid making a video that's too long, I'm only going to summarize the 2020 outlook on defense, and I won't go into the position-by-position breakdown. But if you're interested, go to my website, professormj.com, for my full blog article. The Saints allowed the 4th fewest rushing yards in the league last year, and that seems very unlikely to happen again in 2020. Rankin's health concerns me, and also I don't believe Onyemata is that good, and Demario Davis' play is very likely to regress after a totally unexpected, spectacular 2019 season. As for the pass defense, I expect similar production as last year, plugging Malcolm Jenkins at safety instead of Von Bell seems like an upgrade to me. However, losing Eli Apple is hardly good news. He was okay last season, but he had potential and he still needs to be replaced. Hopefully, Plan B is not PJ Williams, because he does not appear to be the answer. New Orleans finished 13 in points allowed last year. Now I expect a small drop in 2020, perhaps to a spot ranging between 15 and 19. Yes, it's now time to answer the following question. Should we bet the Saints to win more or less than 10.5 games in 2020? Now, have you watched any of my other team previews? If not, let me tell you very quickly how I am approaching those bets. Well, I'm using the point spreads set by betonline.ag on all 256 regular season games in 2020. Now I convert those point spreads into win probabilities, and then I use a statistical software called R in order to simulate each of the 256 games. So I came up with one simulated year. But why stop with just one simulated year? I went crazy and simulated 1 million seasons. And I asked my program to count the number of times the Saints won 11 games or more and the number of times they won 10 or less. And here are the results. The Saints went over 10.5 wins in 52% of the cases, while obviously the under won 48% of the time. Now, just because the over won more often than the under, it does not necessarily mean you should bet the over. It obviously depends on the odds that you are getting. Now, I looked at the odds from 13 well-known online sportsbooks, and the best line I found on the over was with the sportsbook called FanDuel, and the odds were plus 100, which is the same as 2.0 in decimal format. Now, I'm not going to bore you with the details of the calculations, but based on the 52% probability of the over and the odds of plus 100 that we are getting, betting the over yields a return on investment, a ROI, of plus 4%. Now, the highest odds on the under that I got were at William Hill, and those odds were minus 110, which equates to 1.91 in this small format. So based on these odds and the probability of winning the under bet, which is 48%, your return on your money goes to minus 8.4%. So obviously, my final tip here is to bet the over. Now, once again, I'm not going to go over the mathematical details, but the absolute minimum odds that you should require in order to bet the over is minus 108. And I believe that's the equivalent of 1.92 in decimal format. Now, obviously, the best case scenario is you really need at least plus 100, or I would say maybe 110, but that's your call. So as I said, the ROI on the Saints is plus 4%, which ranks them as the 30th best bet in the NFL out of 32 teams. Tomorrow, I'm going to preview the Houston Texans, whose ROI is 29th in the league. A quick reminder that if you want to get the top 10 picks, they are available in a special package that I'm selling. See the link below. And you also get a lot of extras with this package. I'm Professor MJ, a university statistics professor from Canada. I'll see you in another video that's going to give you some great sports betting tips. Thanks for watching.